Today we'll be routing our hydraulic hoses and power connections for Minn Kota Raptor shallow water anchors. Before you begin routing the hydraulic hoses, be sure to review the mounting considerations as well as the tools and resources list provided in the Raptor owner's manual before you begin. This will help to ensure a smooth installation process. Your Raptor will come out of the box with the 15-foot hydraulic hoses already attached to the cylinder. Notice that the two hoses have different colored caps on the ends. The green cap is for the up connection, and the black cap is for the down connection. You'll want to leave these caps in place as long as possible to keep the connections clean. Before determining how to route your hydraulic hoses, you'll want to consider a couple of things. First, make sure that any holes you drill for routing the hoses are drilled above the water line. If you choose to drill routing holes through your transom, you'll also want to make sure that the holes are at least 1 inch away from any obstructions to make sure the hoses and grommets have good clearance. It's also recommended to drill routing holes at least 1.5 to 2 inches apart from each other to allow for a proper seal on the grommet. One option to consider for routing the hoses is to use the cable boot usually located on or near the splash well by the transom. This will oftentimes give you easy access to the compartment below deck. Just make sure there's nothing going through those areas that could cause damage to your hydraulic hoses. For our installation, we've drilled two 3/4 inch diameter holes through the transom that are spaced about 2 inches apart. Before you feed the hoses through the routing holes, you'll want to unwrap the hoses first. This may involve carefully cutting off a zip tie that may have been used during shipment. Be careful not to damage the hose when doing this. Because you'll want to route the majority of the hose inside the boat hull, slide the rubber grommets back from the end of the hose, but leave enough slack outside to allow for the range of motion the Raptor will need when it stows and deploys. After the hoses are in place, lay an 1/8 inch bead of marine-grade sealant around each routing hole, keeping the sealant close to the edge of the hole. Next, slide the rubber grommets into position, tight against the hull to get a good seal. You'll want to let the sealant dry before making the final adjustments to the hose positions. Now that we've got the hoses routed into the hull, we can make the connections to the pump. Before you get started, make sure that the Raptor is deployed with the spike resting on the ground. This will help to make sure that the spike doesn't fall before the system is pressurized. It's also a good idea to look at how you're going to bundle your hoses below deck before attaching them to the pump. This will give you more flexibility for tying them up and keeping things organized. Remember that both of the hydraulic hoses and the pump come with colored caps on them. These are to help keep the connections clean, but also simplify the connections. You'll want to make these connections one at a time, and it doesn't matter what order you do them in. So let's start with the down connection, which has the black cap on it. Make sure that you don't add anything to the threads of these connections, like Teflon tape or anything. These connections will seat and seal themselves without it. Remove the black cap from the hose and from the pump. You'll want to start the connection by hand carefully to make sure you don't cross-thread the connection. You should be able to turn the connection by hand 5 to 7 times before you need a wrench to finish the connection. Once the connection is hand tight, use a 9/16 inch wrench to finish the connection. If you have a torque wrench available, tighten these connections to about 120 inch-pounds. Now, repeat the same process on the up connection, which has the green cap on it. Once your connections are complete, we're ready to connect the pump to power. The 12-volt hydraulic pump power leads are about 6 feet long. If you're going to need more length than this, refer to the battery and wiring section of the user manual for proper gauge wire to use for the length that you need. You can connect your Raptor hydraulic pump to any marine-grade 12-volt battery. Raptor will draw only a few milliamps of current when sitting idle, so you don't have to worry about discharging your battery. But it's always a good idea to keep your batteries well maintained with a Minn Kota battery charger. If you're not using a power disconnect switch, you can connect the pump directly to your starting battery. You'll notice that there is no on-off switch on your pump. As soon as you connect the pump to power, you'll see the lights flash briefly, followed by a beep, indicating that the pump is now powered. Once you have power connected to your pump, be sure not to operate it until we've filled the reservoir with hydraulic fluid. We'll look at this next and bleed the air out of the hydraulic lines. For more information and instructional videos, be sure to visit our website at minnkotamotors.com and find us on YouTube under Minn Kota Motors.